In the next few minutes, I'm revealing 15 vegetable oil brands hiding harmful additives, chemical preservatives, and synthetic compounds behind their golden color and promises of heart health. Plus, I'll show you the 4 clean alternatives that deliver pure nutrition without the toxic shortcuts. Stay until the end because number 1 will change how you shop forever. Let's pull back the curtain on what's really sitting in your pantry right now. 15. Luana. Starting at number 15, Luana has been a Southern kitchen staple for generations, trusted by families who remember it from their mother's cooking. But the ingredient statement reveals concerning choices. Luana blends soybean oil and peanut oil, highly processed industrial products extracted through chemical means rather than traditional pressing. These aren't the oils our grandparents would recognize. What makes Luana troubling is the chemical preservation system built into every bottle. The label lists TBHQ, a synthetic antioxidant derived from petroleum that prevents rancidity during long shelf storage. They've also added citric acid and dimethylpolysiloxane, an anti-foaming agent used in industrial applications. For those past middle age working to reduce chemical exposure, these synthetic additives represent unnecessary risks. Traditional oils never needed such aggressive preservation. 14. Versa Essentials. At number 14, Versa Essentials markets itself as professional grade, but the ingredients tell a concerning story. This product contains both liquid soybean oil and hydrogenated soybean oil, meaning you're getting trans fats alongside problematic omega-6 oils. Hydrogenation forces hydrogen atoms into oil molecules, creating unnatural fats your body struggles to process properly. The preservation mirrors Luana with TBHQ, citric acid, and dimethylpolysiloxane. For older adults protecting cardiovascular health and reducing inflammation, hydrogenated oils represent exactly what doctors warn against. These aren't the fats that sustained previous generations. They're laboratory creations designed for industrial production and extended shelf life, not human health. 13. Sysco Canola, Frying Shortening. At number 13, Sysco's Canola Frying Shortening is a food service product restaurants rely on without questioning what's inside. The ingredient statement lists TBHQ and citric acid added to protect flavor, revealing the base oil would taste terrible without chemical intervention. Dimethylpolysiloxane ensures foam doesn't interfere with commercial frying. This comes in 35-pound containers designed for high-volume use, engineered for durability and profit rather than nutrition. Canola itself deserves skepticism. Despite health claims, canola is highly processed, extracted using hexane solvents in high heat that damages fatty acid structures. By the time it reaches industrial containers, it's been bleached, deodorized, and chemically altered. For those who remember when restaurants used stable animal fats for frying, this represents a troubling shift toward cheaper industrial oils preserved with synthetic chemicals. 12. Sysco Soybean Fry Oil. At number 12, Sysco appears again with soybean fry oil, proving institutional food service has embraced cheap, chemically preserved oils. This lists soybean oil with TBHQ and citric acid as preservatives, plus dimethylpolysiloxane. The fact this appears in the Sysco catalog with official identifiers means it's distributed widely across restaurants, hospitals, schools, and cafeterias nationwide. Millions consume this oil regularly without knowing. Soybean oil dominates American food production because it's cheap and stays shelf-stable with chemical preservatives. Nutritionally, it's an omega-6 bomb promoting inflammation in bodies already struggling with arthritis and cardiovascular disease. For older adults eating restaurant meals believing they're making reasonable choices, this invisible soybean oil represents a hidden source of inflammatory fats you encounter far more often than you realize. 11. Gateway Food Products, Canola Oil. At number 11, Gateway Food Products sells canola oil explicitly labeled with additives, removing any pretense of natural purity. The ingredient statement includes TBHQ, citric acid, and dimethylpolysiloxane. Gateway's honesty and product documentation openly describes this as canola with additives rather than hiding behind health marketing. It's a food service product where cost and shelf stability matter more than ingredient quality. This transparency reveals how normalized chemical oil preservation has become. Companies don't even hide additives because institutional buyers prioritize price over nutritional value. For consumers avoiding synthetic preservatives and industrial oils, Gateway's canola represents exactly the type causing concern. The fact it's marketed primarily to food service means you're consuming it when eating out, unaware your food was cooked in chemically preserved oil. 10. Gateway Food Products. Soybean Clear Fry Oil. At number 10, Gateway appears again with soybean clear fry oil, described explicitly as frying oil for commercial kitchens. The ingredient list shows soybean oil preserved with TBHQ, citric acid, and dimethylpolysaloxane. The clear designation refers to appearance after processing removes color and sediment, creating oil that looks clean while hiding chemical reality underneath. For those who grew up with grandmothers using lard or tallow for frying, these industrial soybean oils represent dramatic departure from traditional fats. They're cheaper and stay liquid at room temperature, convenient for restaurants. But they deliver massive omega-6 loads that throw off inflammatory balance in aging bodies already dealing with joint pain and chronic issues. When you order fried foods at restaurants, you're almost certainly consuming Gateway-style oils with petroleum-derived preservatives. 9. Healthy Brand Oil Company, RBD Soybean Oil. At number 9, the irony isn't lost that Healthy Brand Oil Company sells refined, bleached, and deodorized soybean oil loaded with chemical preservatives. The RBD designation tells you everything about production. Refined means chemical solvents extracted the oil. Bleached means they stripped away color using clay and chemical filters. Deodorized means extreme heat removed natural smell and taste consumers find objectionable. By the time this finishes, you're left with nutritionally damaged oil requiring TBHQ, citric acid, and dimethylpolysaloxane just to remain shelf-stable. The marketing term healthy in the company name represents everything misleading about modern food labeling. There's nothing healthy about chemically extracted, heavily processed soybean oil preserved with synthetic additives. For older adults navigating contradictory nutrition advice and trying to make wise choices, products like this create confusion by borrowing health language while delivering industrial ingredients. Traditional cold-pressed oils never required refining, bleaching, or deodorizing because they tasted good and stayed stable naturally. 8. Healthy Brand Oil Company High Oleic Soybean Oil. At number 8, Healthy Brand appears again with high oleic soybean oil marketed for frying. The high oleic designation means this soybean variety was genetically modified to contain more oleic acid, making it more stable for high heat. While that sounds like improvement, you're still getting genetically modified soy preserved with TBHQ, citric acid, and dimethylpolysaloxane. The spec sheet proudly lists USA origin, as if domestic production negates concerning ingredients inside. High oleic oils represent the food industry's attempt to engineer better frying oils while maintaining cheap soybean agriculture. But genetic modification of crops to change oil composition doesn't address the fundamental problem. They're still chemically extracted, heavily processed products requiring synthetic preservation. For consumers in their 50s, 60s, and beyond who remember simpler food before genetic modification, these engineered oils feel like science experiments. The fact that even modified soybeans need petroleum-derived preservatives tells you the oil remains fundamentally unstable. 7. Supreme Oil Company ProFry Zero. At number 7, Supreme Oil Company's ProFry Zero sounds innovative with high oleic soybean oil formulation. The zero designation suggests zero trans fat, technically meeting FDA standards. But the ingredient statement still lists TBHQ and dimethylpolysaloxane, meaning you're avoiding trans fat while consuming petroleum-derived preservatives and industrial anti-foaming agents. This represents the industry's pattern of solving one problem by creating others. For older adults who've watched nutrition recommendations shift over decades, from butter warnings to trans fat bans to seed oil skepticism, ProFry Zero exemplifies why food guidance feels confusing. The industry responds to each concern by tweaking formulations while preserving cheap, chemically preserved oils. High oleic soybeans avoid some heat damage, but they're still industrial crops processed into oils needing chemical stabilization. When professional fryer oil requires TBHQ to stay usable, something fundamental is wrong. 6. Chef's Pride Canola Fryer Oil. At number 6, Chef's Pride markets canola fryer oil to food service with the same problematic ingredients we've encountered. TBHQ and citric acid preserve the oil, while dimethyl polisiloxane controls foam. The documentation explicitly describes this as fryer oil for frying applications. This is cheap industrial oil designed to survive repeated heating cycles without breaking down visibly or smoking excessively. The pride in the company name feels misplaced when you examine what chefs actually use. Rather than traditional cooking fats that great chefs valued for flavor, we've settled for chemically stabilized canola that tastes bland and requires preservatives. For home cooks who admire restaurant preparations and wonder why their food doesn't taste the same, the oil often explains the difference. When you replicate restaurant recipes at home using real butter or olive oil, you're actually using superior ingredients. 5. Chef's Pride Creamy Liquid. Fry shortening moving into the top 5 worst offenders. Chef's Pride sells creamy liquid fry shortening, combining liquid and hydrogenated soybean oil. That word hydrogenated should raise concerns, indicating trans fat formation through chemical modification. They've created semi-solid fat from liquid soy oil by forcing hydrogen into molecular structure, then added TBHQ, citric acid, and dimethyl polisiloxane. The creamy designation refers to texture rather than dairy, describing how hydrogenated oil behaves like traditional shortening while remaining liquid enough to pump through commercial equipment. For older adults who remember when shortening meant Crisco in a can, these liquid shortenings represent modern industrial efficiency at expense of ingredient integrity. Hydrogenated fats damage cardiovascular health, particularly as we age and become less resilient to inflammatory insults. 4. Cargill Clear Valley High Oleic Canola Oil. At number 4, agricultural giant Cargill sells Clear Valley High Oleic Canola Oil with the familiar trio of TBHQ, citric acid, and dimethyl polisiloxane. The documentation describes this as food service frying oil in 35-pound containers for restaurant and institutional use. Cargill's massive scale means this oil likely appears in countless commercial kitchens, making it widely consumed despite most people never hearing the brand name. What makes Cargill concerning is their dominance across the entire food chain, from growing genetically modified canola to processing it into chemically preserved oil to distributing through food service channels. When one company controls so much production, quality concerns get magnified across millions of meals. For consumers trying to make informed choices about restaurant dining, Cargill's presence highlights how difficult avoiding industrial oils becomes when eating out. 3. Bunge Proformance NT. Approaching our most problematic oils, Bunge's Proformance NT blends high oleic soybean oil with regular soybean oil, combining genetically modified and conventional industrial oils in one product. The ingredient declaration includes TBHQ, citric acid, and dimethyl polisiloxane. Bunge is another agricultural multinational with massive influence over American food production, meaning their oils reach far more kitchens than most consumers realize. The Proformance designation suggests professional performance, marketing this to commercial kitchens seeking stable frying oils. But performance here means resisting breakdown during repeated heating cycles, not delivering nutrition or supporting health. For older adults increasingly aware that chronic inflammation drives age-related diseases, soybean oil blends represent concentrated sources of omega-6 fatty acids that tip inflammatory balance in the wrong direction. 2. Melfry Extend. At number 2, Melfry Extend combines palm-oleian with soybean oil, creating a blend that sounds exotic but delivers the same chemical preservation. Palm-oleian is the liquid fraction of palm oil, highly saturated and stable, for frying. Blending it with soybean oil creates cheaper product maintaining some stability while stretching costs. Then they add TBHQ, citric acid, and dimethyl polisiloxane to ensure extended shelf life and commercial performance. The extend in the product name refers to extended frying life, meaning this oil survives more heating cycles before restaurants need to change it. While that sounds economical, you're eating oil heated and reheated dozens of times, accumulating oxidation products with each cycle. For those concerned about reducing chemical exposure as we age, repeatedly heated oils represent cumulative damage. By the time restaurant oil reaches end of its extended life, it's a cocktail of oxidized fats, free radicals, and chemical preservatives. 1. Chef's quality. Taking the #1 spot as the absolute worst vegetable oil you can buy, Chef's Quality combines every concerning ingredient. The ingredient list includes both soybean oil and hydrogenated soybean oil, delivering omega-6 oils and trans fats. Then come TBHQ and citric acid for preservation. But Chef's Quality goes further by adding soy lecithin as emulsifier, artificial flavors to mask off taste from processing, and beta-carotene for color. This isn't cooking oil anymore. It's an industrial ingredient engineered to look, taste, and behave in ways natural oil never would. What makes Chef's Quality truly troubling is accumulation of additives beyond standard preservation. Every additional ingredient represents another chemical intervention, fixing problems created by previous processing steps. The soy lecithin emulsifies because the oil blend would otherwise separate. The flavors mask chemical taste from hydrogenation. The beta-carotene colors the oil to look golden despite being refined to near transparency. For older adults trying to minimize synthetic additives and eat closer to real food, Chef's Quality represents the opposite extreme. The quality in the name becomes darkly ironic. When you examine what's actually inside, a symphony of chemical processing that culminates in the worst vegetable oil available on the market today. After working through 15 brands representing everything wrong with modern vegetable oil production, it's time for relief. The food industry normalized chemical preservation, genetic modification, and synthetic additives to such extent that many accept them as inevitable. But they're not. Real cooking oils exist without TBHQ, without hydrogenation, without anti-foaming agents and artificial colors. The following 4 brands prove oil can be exactly what it should be, pressed from quality ingredients without chemical intervention. 4. California Olive Ranch. Starting our safe list at number 4, California Olive Ranch delivers extra virgin olive oil containing exactly 1 ingredient: olives. No chemical extraction, no refinement, no preservation required. The product page clearly labels this as 100% California, meaning domestic production with transparent sourcing. Extra virgin designation indicates first cold pressing, preserving all beneficial compounds that heat and chemical processing destroy. This is oil as it's meant to be, mechanically pressed from fruit and bottled without intervention. For older adults seeking familiar flavors and reliable quality, olive oil represents thousands of years of Mediterranean tradition. Your body recognizes and processes olive oil efficiently because humans have consumed it throughout history. The polyphenols and antioxidants remain intact through cold pressing, delivering compounds that actually support cardiovascular health. California Olive Ranch's domestic production means fresher oil with less transit time and fewer supply chain complications. When you pour this over salad or use it for gentle sautéing, you're using pure food without preservatives, without additives, without anything beyond pressed olives. 3. Chosen Foods. At number 3, Chosen Foods offers organic avocado oil, bringing simplicity and purity to cooking. The ingredient statement lists organic avocado oil, nothing more. The product description emphasizes cold-pressed extraction, meaning they mechanically press oil from avocados without heat or chemical solvents. This preserves delicate fatty acid structure and beneficial compounds that make avocado oil nutritionally valuable. Organic certification ensures avocados grew without synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. Avocado oil's high smoke point makes it surprisingly versatile for those who've relied on industrial vegetable oils for high-heat cooking. You can sauté, roast, and even carefully fry with avocado oil while avoiding chemical preservatives and damaged fats. The mild flavor works across cuisines without overwhelming dishes the way strong olive oil sometimes can. For older cooks transitioning away from problematic seed oils, Chosen Foods provides accessible alternative that performs well in everyday cooking. The organic certification and cold-press processing mean pure avocado oil with natural antioxidants and monounsaturated fats intact. 2. Nutiva. At number 2, Nutiva produces organic virgin coconut oil using methods that honor traditional processing. The product description emphasizes cold-pressed and never refined, meaning they extract oil from fresh coconut meat through mechanical pressure without heat or chemicals. The retailer listing describes this as 100% organic, unrefined, cold-pressed virgin coconut oil. That's 5 different quality indicators in one description, each confirming that Nutiva refuses to cut corners or compromise. Ingredients. Coconut oil's saturated fat structure makes it incredibly stable, requiring no chemical preservation because it doesn't oxidize or go rancid the way polyunsaturated oils do. This natural stability is why tropical cultures use coconut oil for cooking long before refrigeration existed. For older adults who remember when saturated fat was vilified, coconut oil represents the pendulum swinging back toward traditional wisdom. Nutiva's commitment to organic, unrefined, cold-pressed processing ensures you get authentic coconut oil with its natural aroma and slight sweetness intact. When oil needs no refinement to taste good and no preservation to stay stable, that tells you it's real food. 1. Spectrum, taking the #1 spot as the absolute best vegetable oil brand available. Spectrum produces expeller-pressed refined high oleic organic sunflower oil that balances purity with practicality. The ingredient statement confirms this is organic and expeller-pressed, meaning mechanical extraction without chemical solvents. High oleic sunflower varieties contain more stable monounsaturated fats, making the oil suitable for cooking temperatures that would damage regular sunflower oil. Even though it's refined to increase versatility, the expeller pressing preserves far more nutritional value than chemical extraction ever could. What makes Spectrum exceptional is their willingness to offer refined oil through mechanical means only, proving refinement doesn't require chemical processing. Many people need neutral flavored oil that works for diverse cooking applications, and Spectrum delivers that without compromising ingredient integrity. The organic certification ensures clean sunflowers grown without synthetic agricultural chemicals. For older cooks who want one versatile oil working for everything from baking to roasting without chemical additives, Spectrum High Oleic Sunflower Oil provides the answer. It performs beautifully across cooking methods, tastes, clean and neutral, stays stable at reasonable temperatures, and contains nothing but mechanically pressed organic sunflower oil. This represents what all vegetable oil could be if companies prioritize quality over cost. 15 vegetable oil brands built on chemical preservation, industrial processing, and synthetic additives, plus 4 that prove oil can be simple, pure, and trustworthy. Before your next grocery trip, check ingredient labels, avoid anything listing TBHQ or hydrogenated oils, and choose brands committed to traditional pressing methods. Stay informed, cook wisely, and remember that real food never needs a chemistry set to stay edible.